I hope you fellas and fellarettes, girls, are having a beautiful, beautiful start to the morning or getting way into the wee hours of the night for our friends in Europe and the UK. What is going on? We're back with another episode of the podcast this morning, and this is going to be something that I think a lot of people need to hear. So if you're coming into this one live, guys, please let us know. We're going to be kick-starting off in the next 2 to 3 minutes, and we're nice and set up for a good little discussion this morning. So happy Monday to the vast majority of you kings and queens. Obviously, for a lot of you, it's still the weekend. I hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful finish to your Sunday. Getting to the end of our Bali trip and looking to get back this week to Aussie. Don't forget, guys, next weekend, if you're on the scenic central coast of Australia, we're going to be doing another stomp and a bit of a catch up. I'm super freaking pumped to get home. So looking forward to seeing a few of you guys. Let us know that you're here with an I'm live or I'm here or a nice little hello into the comments, guys. And we're going to start this episode in just under a minute. Alrighty, so we got some crew coming into this one. Look at this, how good's this? Already 15 people coming in live. Love yous, guys. Look at this, morning Jace, morning coach, morning. How good's this? I love it. All the team coming in for the juice. Slightly different time for the podcast this week, guys, just because I'm going to be on a plane at the normal podcast time, obviously coming back to Oz. So I wanted to make sure that we gave the value, and I think this episode is going to be... A lot of the time, the people that attend the podcast live are the people that are already dominating, right? These are the guys that are feasting for more information. They want to know how to unlock the next level of their gains. And a lot of times, the podcast is probably aimed more so at the people that are not doing those things. But I think this episode, for you guys and girls that are pushing it, this is going to be a helpful episode, and it's certainly something I want you to think about and consider whether it's relevant to you. So guys, we're going to start in 30 seconds. Let a few more people come in if they want to do this, and also I'm going to bring in our Instagram feed live as well. And so I think we're about there, team. I think we're about there. How are we feeling this morning, guys? How are we feeling this afternoon? We ready for a big one? Big week? Ready to lay some domination in? All right, guys, I think we're good to go. Let's do this on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the secret progress killer that you must address. And if you're the type of person that's super ambitious, always pushing yourself, I think you might have a bit of an insight into what this might be. And we're going to break this down in this episode. I hope you all had a banger of a weekend. I want to remind everyone of 2 things. Number 1, if you are local to the New South Wales Central Coast in Australia, next weekend, we are doing our final client meetup before Coach Jason Cordia handle back to Canada. So if you are around, it will likely be at 6:30 a.m. We will do the typical stomp, we'll have a coffee, and then for anyone that wants to come and do a drop-in session at FCF, we will do that. And then for the boys in the nighttime, we're going to be doing a men's mastermind dinner at Nico's restaurant, which is going to be freaking amazing. The second thing is just be reminded that if you're in Better Body Academy right now, April is form month. We are doing our best to give you feedback on your videos in the gym. If you're going in the gym and you're just going through the motions and you're doing things the wrong way, we want to be able to use this month to correct it. This only works if you're taking videos of yourself in the gym. Now, you might feel like a bit of a wanker. Okay, so you got 2 options. Feel like a wanker or keep working out ways that don't work, right? So which one's it going to be? Get your gym videos up into the group so we can help. All right, let's get to the podcast. I want to give you the podcast for this episode, the context for this episode. I've been in Bali for the last 2 weeks, still continuing to work, but just working from a different location as always. But honestly, I haven't been as committed to my normal schedule. A lot more beers. Anyone that's been to Bali knows that the bintang is part of life here. And I've been way looser on my nutrition. And the reason for this is because really eating is half the price here. You can get takeout quickly, delivered to your door. And so even though I'm usually quite strict and disciplined in the way that I drink and the way that I use food, when I get to Bali, I'm a little bit looser. Not crazily looser, but just a little bit looser. And so I was looking at some photos yesterday, and what's really, really interesting is that, and this happens every single time that I go away, even though my nutrition is looser, I drink a little bit more, I look better. Now, of course, some of that is something to do with the sun, right? There's something nice about having a tan. But just looking at my body composition, it changes so quickly. And this happens every single time I go away. Does anyone else get this experience? So for the first few days of any type of getaway, I always feel like I'm recovering and there's a bit of jet lag there. But when that passes, my body starts to really appear quite different. How can this be? How can it be that we are throwing in more calories, a few more junk calories, but looking better? In this episode, I want to talk about the part of weight management and performance that no one discusses, and this is sleep and management of chronic stress. So a question to you guys to start up. How many of you are cutting things close to the bone right now? So you're training really hard, you're trying to manage family and work, you're getting up early, you're staying up late. How many of you, give me a silent head nod if that's you. Have you ever had to think to yourself about maybe what the impact of that is on your results, your physical transformation results? Most people are not so in touch with their body and their health that it's not really a thought. They don't really think about that, but I certainly am. Let me tell you, you can track your nutrition and be perfect. You can train the house down, but if you are not recovering well, your results are going to be average. And it doesn't matter whether you're an advanced trainer or new at this stuff. Your results are going to be average. We tend to think that a better attitude is no pain, no gain. More is better. That is just simply not the case. I'm here to tell you that is simply not the case. This podcast episode is directed at 2 people, mostly the guys and girls that are constantly pushing themselves in life. I'm wanting you to question whether your results right now are being hampered in any way by your unwillingness to just dial it back a little bit sometimes. The second person that this podcast episode is directed at is the girls and guys that cannot for the life of themselves figure out why they're not getting results. I want the message that you take out of this that you need to start prioritizing your sleep seriously. Seriously. Not, yeah, Jace, you're right. I'm talking fucking seriously. Look, if we could create an equation to explain how you achieve an amazing body, I like the idea of having frameworks. This is how you achieve an amazing body. I just want to give you an equation to summarize it, okay? Here's how. Number 1, adequate stimulus, okay? This stimulus, be it from cardio and resistance training, there is a level of positive stress that must be induced in the body for anything to change. If there's not adequate stimulus, nothing changes, right? So many people go in the gym and just go through the motion, and that's why nothing changes. So the first part to changing your body is adequate stimulus. The next part is proper nutrition. Think about it. When you go into the gym or when you go for a run, you're breaking down body tissue. It's a positive stress because you're going to rebuild it up. But if you don't have adequate nutrition, nothing changes. You've just got a broken body. So this is where I think a lot of people just do not understand. They think that they can just go in a gym and just work really hard. They don't hit their nutrition target. They don't have enough calories, or they're doing long cardio runs. They don't have enough protein. They don't have enough calories coming in, and they end up looking worse and eventually hitting the wall because of the stress-induced damage that exercise does. So the equation looks like this: adequate stimulus plus proper nutrition plus the right conditions. That's what we're talking about in this episode. So what are the right conditions in terms of stress management and sleep? If you get those three things right, the body changes rapidly. But still, most of us will pay no attention to creating the right conditions. And I think that that's probably because, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think that's probably because most of us don't understand the degree to which the wrong conditions are detrimental to our health. It's insidious, meaning it's not obvious. It creeps up on us. Chronic stress, undersleeping. We tend to think that we can handle anything and power through. And maybe we can. I can. That's how I feel. But when we're scratching our heads at why our body looks the same after 2 years, why we're not necessarily losing the fat we want, or for a lot of you guys particularly, building the muscle that you want, it's likely this is the reason. I want to show you a graph, okay? Because a lot of people think that the goal of a conversation like this is to eliminate stress entirely. I don't know how many of you have seen this graph before. Now, if you're listening on the audio podcast, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to see it, but I'll explain it to you. What this graph shows you is how a certain amount of stress is actually necessary. If you have, where it says the green in the graph, if you have too little stress in your life, you're not motivated, right? Everyone knows and has been in this position before where there's just not enough pressure on. For those of you that say, I work really good with deadlines, right? This is an example. The deadline, whether it be a marathon that you've got to run in 6 months, or whether it be something that's due for work, that extra little bit of stress created by the deadline is what's enough to get you to do the work. But if you did not have that deadline, you wouldn't do the work. Everyone would just be lazy. But at a certain point, and in the graph that you're looking at here, we're talking about the kind of gap, the line between the yellow and the orange. This is where you're starting to get to the point where it's becoming too much stress that you're putting on yourself. And not only is this detrimental to performance, but it's detrimental to your aesthetics as well. There's a word for this type of stress. Stress that is positive is called eustress. Eustress basically means positive stress that causes you to take action. But if you're always living in chronic stress or chronic undersleeping, the wrong conditions, your performance is killed, completely killed. So let's talk about how that actually happens. Why does stress and undersleeping make weight management and muscle building harder? Well, number one and first and foremost, it causes a massive shift in your hormones. Both stress and sleep lead to a hormonal imbalance in the body. You might have heard of hormones like cortisol, a hormone that increases appetite and promotes the storage of fat, particularly around the abdomen, is released when you're in chronic stress. It's chronically elevated. And then other hormones like leptin and ghrelin, these are hormones that regulate hunger. When you are chronically tired all the time, you have increased levels of ghrelin, which is the hormone that tells the body, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. You need to continue eating. And at the same time, when you're chronically tired all the time, you have suppressed levels of a hormone called leptin. Leptin is a hormone that tells you when you eat and you've had enough, that you are full. So you've got these stress hormones being triggered. You've got your appetite regulation hormones being completely out of whack. And then something like testosterone is just destroyed. It's really funny. I see men buying supplements like Tribulus terrestrius and these types of supplements, and they think that they're going to turn around their lifestyle with a herbal supplement. Dude, like, your testosterone, if it's shot because you're overweight. It's shot because you're not sleeping enough and you're not looking after your body. That's why. And if you want to peak your testosterone level, one of the ways to do that is start managing your sleep and managing your stress. The other factor that will kind of come into this is you're going to have cravings for foods because you're sleep deprived. So the body is sitting there going, okay, like, what the fuck is going on here? Jim is just so tired. I need energy. Jim, give me energy. So what is it going to crave? High sugar and high fat foods. Foods that give it quick calorie sources. But the problem with those types of foods is that they don't fill you up because they're not lean protein foods. They don't fill you up. What ends up happening is they come into your body, kind of like a Red Bull effect. They give you the quick hit of calories. You use that, and then you're back into this stress-induced kind of craving more food. Do you see the problem here? You're building your house on really poor foundations. And then think about the role of emotional eating in all of this. Let's face it, no one listening to this podcast wants to be overweight. I don't think there's anyone that wants to be overweight. It's happened because we've accumulated the fat as a consequence of our lifestyle. That's what's happened. And so one of the world's greatest coping mechanisms, the world's greatest coping mechanism for emotions is what? Food and booze. So we get stressed, bored, tired, anxious. We don't go, I might have a nice chicken and broccoli salad. Like, that's not how it works. We go and crave the things that give us that feeling of like we feel better as a consequence of it in the short term, not the long term. And emotional eating is the thing that just constantly keeps people in this cycle of binge bust. You can never get away with it. How do you feel when you're stressed and you're constantly underslept? Do you kind of I'm getting an image of Sean Baker here, one of our clients, and Sean's probably in bed going, fuck, I know, because I kind of get that image, Sean. It's like you don't feel like getting out of bed when you're tired and underslept because of the fact that your energy levels are drained. So what chance are you got of wanting to go out and put in at the gym or go for a walk? It feels like you're pushing shit uphill constantly, which means that if you're burning less calories, you are putting yourself likely into a calorie surplus position. So if you're sitting there and thinking to yourself like, why is this not working for me? Why am I not seeing the weight loss results that I want or the performance results that I want? It's likely to do with this one thing, particularly if you're otherwise eating well and exercising. I think the final thing that is worth considering is, what are the decisions that you make, like when you're tired? Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know the answer, that when you're tired and underslept, your decision-making ability is impaired. That might be a decision-making ability that's to do with a big thing at work, or it might be simply having the willpower to stick to your targets that you set out at the start of the week. No doubt a lot of you, and you should have a plan for this week. But the moment that you're operating under chronic stress or chronic tiredness, the chances of you making better decisions go out the door when your willpower is low as a consequence of being tired and stressed. Now, look, I can hear already a lot of the older lads in here saying, yeah, but I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm tough. I can handle it. And you know what? And I'm talking about, like, I'm pointing names out here. To those who are not in Better Body Academy, you won't know these names, but I'm talking about guys like Steve Byron, Clint Guyot, of all people, Clint, Kev Grant, Terry Holden. You guys are the ones that are really pushing it. Nick Friend, Jimmy Norville, you guys are pushing it. I get the sentiment, right? I can handle it. This is the attitude of a winner. But what this Bali trip has reminded me of again is there's a difference between surviving the constant beating of stress and just learning to take a little bit better care of yourself, and what happens when you take the foot off the gas a little bit. There is some real value in just going outside in the sun, right? Particularly for someone like me who lives in fucking Canada half the year. There's some real value in going outside in the sun, having a swim, enjoying a coffee, having a bit of actual downtime. There's a lot of benefit in doing the occasional diet break and increasing your calories to give your body a break. That's exactly what I've done here. I've increased my calories. I have not been as strict. And all of a sudden, it seems like I'm building muscle quicker than I ever have. This was a comment made by a few of the boys in the men's mastermind. Said, Jace, you're looking great. It's because I've given my body a break. I'm training every day, but in terms of calorie restriction, stress induction, I'm giving my body a chance to recover. And not only does it refresh your spirit, it just helps cool the jets a little bit as far as the stress overload. And when I look at a few of you lads particularly, it's not that the chicks are not part of this, but I see particularly you guys doing a lot of cardio. There seems to be a few niggling injuries creeping in, and I put that squarely down to the fact that you need to take a break. Sometimes you need a break. Exercise is a good stressor on the body, but too much of it can be leading to overtraining. So let's ask ourselves the question, like, what are the signs that you might see existing here that you're overdoing it? What are some signs of potential overtraining or the fact that you're not looking after yourself? Let's just quickly hit them. Persistent fatigue. Even though you're sleeping, you say, I'm getting sleep, I'm getting rest, but I'm just tired all the time. That can be a sign of overtraining. I just going to tell you as well, if you're always tired all the time, the majority of the reason is because you're carrying too much weight. But if you're otherwise pretty fit and you're tired all the time, you probably need a deload. It could be that your performance is decreased. I know this for me firsthand. When I get in the gym and I'm weak and I'm not training super early in the morning, like I'm training on a Saturday, I should be the strongest I am. And despite the fact that I'm training, I'm finding it really, really hard to get my head into it. I feel like it's a struggle to get the bar up. I might have disrupted sleep or periods of insomnia. I might have persistent muscle soreness that is just like, it's just not going away. It feels like just constant DOMS. This is a big one that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks with a lot of you guys, is that there is this increased susceptibility to illness associated with a weakened immune system that's been dampened down by the chronic stress, right? If the immune system is pushed down and suppressed, gives us a chance for problems to happen. Mood changes. If you're constantly irritable and mood swings and anxious and feeling like depressed, training starts to feel almost like a chore rather than something that you enjoy. Could be that you just need a break. And what about a decrease in your appetite? Sometimes this can actually happen, or persistent injuries or lack of motivation and general low-level enthusiasm. A lot of the times this is not enough stress in your life, but for people who are high performers, it can actually be that you've kind of taken on too much. So what should you actually do if you suspect that this might be you? You might be undersleeping, overstressing, or overtraining. It sounds very obvious, but the first thing you've got to do, guys, is you've got to start taking this shit seriously. If you accumulate sleep debt as an example, it's like a credit card. You can't just say at the start of the week, okay, I'm going to delete that. It doesn't work like that. No more it does with a credit card. You incur the cost, you have to pay it back. And it's the exact same thing for sleep debt and stress accumulation. You have to pay this back. So I want you to ask yourself, is you being overweight or not building the body that you want and you can't figure out why, is this any way to do with the way you're living your life and the way that you're approaching the whole thing? Do you have this like no pain, no gain mentality? Or if you're at the other end, are you saying every week that you're going to track your nutrition and promising yourself every week that you're going to go into the gym 3 times, but you're just not fucking sleeping? Go to sleep and stop staying up, wasting time at night, just numbing out. Millions of dollars is spent every single fucking year on weight loss pills and supplements. But what we're not actually doing is going to the cause of the problem. We're not recovering, we're not treating ourselves, and it's throwing out our entire circadian rhythms. I'm not saying go out and eat a bunch of garbage or sit on the couch. I'm not saying that. I'm getting you to challenge yourself and ask yourself the question, does this make sense? It's the entire lifestyle. This is why there is an increase in the popularity of mindfulness movements and grounding tactics like meditation and morning routines and yoga. It's because people are starting to realize the catabolic, meaning the breakdown effects of this stuff. They're starting to realize that if I just keep going this way, and I'm just going to be really, really honest, I think it's a fine line between working hard to achieve the goals and visions that you have in your life, but also working too hard that you start to destroy your progress. This is something that I think about all of the time. I think about, I'm so ambitious about what I want to achieve in the world, but ambitious at the rate of causing myself stress-induced damage? That's a question that I put to you that you've got to think about. If I'm coaching you and you are telling me you're up till midnight, most nights, surviving on 4 to 5 hours of sleep, I'm giving you zero chance of managing your weight. You're just not going to be able to do it. You will not have the willpower. You will not have the hormonal stability. You're going to be craving foods that are going to drive you into the ground, and your mental health will be shit. Your life performance will be shit. And when those two things are true, life becomes a pretty miserable existence. If you start to make changes, if you start to put a little bit of self-care in place, and this means first and foremost being disciplined about getting to bed, and then, through the week, just asking yourself, am I managing my energy levels? Will going to the gym another day be a good thing or detrimental? You need to recover. I was asked to do this podcast numerous times because I think a lot of people just don't understand the full potency of what happens. And I did it at this time because I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, fuck, man, you look awesome at the moment. And that's because I'm treating myself with a little bit of a break. I'm training hard, but just giving myself a few more calories. And that might be exactly what you need to do. Back it off a little bit so that you give yourself the potential to then do another deficit period, or back off your training a little bit so you give yourself the potential to heal your injuries, the nagging ones that have crept in. Sometimes there's value in just playing a game that is longer than the next month. Does this make sense, guys? And I know I'm thinking of all of the people that this applies to. And if that's you, you know that this is going to hit you right. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this has been beneficial. I'll stick around for anyone that wants to chat. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast. Please, if you feel that this episode's been beneficial and you're getting value out of the podcast as we approach 300 episodes, please share the podcast with your friends. Help me take this message to the world. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Okay, team, I'm going to lose our Instagram audience. No problems, guys. I hope it was beneficial. If you want to jump over to Facebook, you can search me there, Jason Stewart, send me a friend request, and we can chat that side. Take care. All right, so Facebook team, what are your thoughts on this? There's still 20 people sticking around live. So what are your thoughts on this? Tezza, rest with me for 8 hours sleep every day. Tez, speaking openly, mate, you're one of the guys that I think about when I think about your results over the long term. In terms of a fat loss phase, bro, fucking hell, like you look amazing. One thing I think that you need to consider with what you're doing at the moment, Tez, is, I don't know where your calories are at the moment, but pushing them up might be exactly what you needed. You just think about it, Tez, like you're doing a whole bunch of cardio, like pounding cardio, you're in the gym every other day. I don't think it's a good idea necessarily for you to drop your gym days down, because I know how important it is for your consistency and your mental health. But it might help to go through some, I guess what you'd call bulk periods, Tez, potentially. Like, I can't answer the question because I don't know how run down you feel, but I really wanted to hope this episode was seen by a lot of you guys doing the kind of cardio push, because, I had a chat with Benny Robinson. He was still down at about 2,000 calories or less, doing all of this half marathon training and in the gym and being a dad. It's just not enough. I don't know if Kev Grant's listening to this, but Kev, I think your feelings over the last week, and it's, again, I get it, it's that you're pushing yourself, and that's fucking awesome. That's so good that you're pushing yourself. I'm not saying stop pushing yourself. What I am saying is that you kind of think to yourself, you're beating yourself into the ground, and then you hit the wall and you go, oh, fuck, I just hit the wall. And then you don't feel like doing anything, right? It's about managing our energy levels over the long term. We're not talking to the people here who are just starting off their transformation and kind of eating like an asshole. We're not talking to those people. We're talking to the people who are pushing themselves. And Tez said, I recently increased the carbs and the calories. Yeah, well, you need to, Tez. And what you might actually find is when you start doing that, you'll really start to see increases in muscle mass. I would suggest here that my calorie intake while I've been here has probably crept up to 3,500 calories, I guess. And a fair few of those calories have been beers, bintangs. But I'm training every day. And what it feels like is that those extra calories, with me having a decent metabolism, are being put towards building muscle. It feels good. I feel like training feels really fucking good. Steve. So Steve's going in for surgery, and Steve asked me the question today, overnight. He said, I'm going, now, you guys do this all the time, so listen up. Steve said, I'm going in for surgery. I'm not going to be able to do much exercise. Should I just cut my calories down to whatever amount? And the answer is no, right? You have to stop living on this thought that you're going to get fat overnight. You're not going to get fat overnight. Someone like Steve has been absolutely pushing this. Steve, you've lost 15 kilos or something to that effect, 20 kilos over the course of the last year. you're training every day, you're turning up for every coaching call, you're probably the most compliant, client that we've got at the moment, bro. You having a period where you go and, you're in hospital and you can't move, what's probably going to happen, Steve, is that yes, you're going to be shot from the surgery, but you're going to come out of it feeling like, oh, right, I'm reinvigorated to train again, like I'm pumped to train again, right? And you may actually you might feel a little bit thicker or a little bit bloated, but you don't panic and sit there and go, oh my God, I've just put on a bunch of fat. You haven't. The mind plays some really weird games. It really does. It plays some crazy games on us where the moment that the scale moves or you look just a little bit more bloated than usual, shit, I need to go into a calorie deficit again. You don't need to do that. If you keep moving, if you keep reacting up and down according to how you feel, you'll never change anything. Right now, Steve, you're deep into a reverse diet and you should keep going with that. I'm not saying increase it while you're in hospital, but just keep it where it is. And then when you get back after your surgery, get back to basics, enjoy the fact that you can't train for a week or two and then get stuck into it. Love it. We forget how important rest and sleep is. Yeah, you're living your best life right now. It's clear that's the best thing for you. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. We just, man, like I said, it's like, for me, almost like Canada is almost the place I go to work, right? That's like, it's like I do my work there. And when I do that, I just, like, and it's easy to say this now, I just like collapse in. I just like, just go inwards. No sun, not a lot of diet breaks. Training feels like much more of a chore than being able to walk across the road, train with no shirt on, get fucking sweaty and humid and gross, put in the work, and then after it, go and treat yourself to some extra calories. Like, it's a different way of living, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you guys get what I'm saying here, I think. Work, life, and mum takes up 100% of my energy. Yeah, some days. I need to get a better balance, and I remember that self-care isn't bad, selfish. This is probably the best comment I've ever heard in my life. and there was a bit of leaning in that podcast episode towards, men that are really pushing it. But I think the unsaid part here is exactly right. This is exactly right. When you're a mum and look, let's face it, I don't know. I think that most families aren't balanced off 50% mum and dad in terms of the family care. Certainly not in my relationship. Cordia does a hell of a lot. And that doesn't make that work any less mentally and fatigue-wise any less problematic. Obviously, when you've got young kids particularly, it's a challenge of managing your energy levels because they're waking up all the time. But then when they get older, it's managing your energy levels because you're prioritizing them and moving them around to different exercises or sports or training sessions or schools or daycares or whatever it is. It is a balance. It really is a balance. And this is why, people constantly say, I have no time. I have no time. That's like the number one thing that people say, I have no time. I speak to people, 50 people a week that tell me they've got no time to start. You've got fucking time. Like, we've got 300 clients. I've got 2 kids. I get the fact that you say you've got no time. You do have time, but you're putting a lot of your available time to numbing tasks that make you feel like you're drained of energy. We did this in one of the brief activities we did at the women's retreat was ask yourself, what are your goals? Like, what do you actually want in life? What do you want to achieve? That's one column. On the other column, what do you do every day? Like, write down everything you do every day. And people say, I don't need to do that. I know what I need to do. Believe me, write down everything what you do in a day. And then draw a line between everything that you do and everything that it links to a goal. And what you'll find is a lot of the things that you're doing in a day aren't necessarily linked to your life goals. They're just tasks that you have to do and you can't escape. Totally get that. Can't escape. Like cleaning and shit, dropping the kids around. Like that's no like high level goal that you're trying to link it to there. But I guarantee you there'll be things that you're doing that are just like, they're just nothing activities. Like being on a Wednesday night watching, this is so typical, so cliche, but like it's a Wednesday night and you're sitting up at 10 o'clock at night watching Netflix. It's like, where is the value in that in the long term if you say you've got no time? Look, this is a tough challenge. Managing your energy levels is a really, really tough thing. Do you guys have any other questions that you might want to discuss or talk about, or points? Trace says, it's about priorities and time management. Now's my time. You know, just on that point, Trace, it's like, this might sound very obvious, but you've got to want the body that you want more than you want Netflix. Like, that's it. I don't know about you guys, but I can get, news.com.au, the website news.com.au, the Australian website, that's a fucking a place that you can just fall into. If I start reading that, I could sit there for an hour or two just reading news stories. It's garbage. It's like, I get to the end of it, I'm like, what am I reading here? So I just don't do it. I don't open the portal to me falling into that hole. People are like, oh, I've got no time. They're sitting there watching a fucking hour of news and current affairs at nighttime. It's like, how is this benefiting you in any way? So it helps to just like, as with Tracy's comment here, it's like, what do you want? Okay, probably the biggest problem here is that if you don't know what you want, then you're not going to know what actions align that, right? They're rabbit holes, they sure are. So step back and ask yourself, like, what do you actually want? What do you want? Okay, number two, is what I am doing in alignment with any of those goals? And if they're not, and it's a deletable project, it's not dropping the kids at school, it's a deletable project. It's like, well, maybe I just got to start doing that thing, and it's about managing priorities. I love that comment, Trace. Does anyone particularly feel that they needed to hear this based on the way they're living kind of close to the edge a little bit at the moment? Steve-O said, yeah, I needed to hear that. That's put my mind at ease. Absolutely, Steve. It's, dude, just like, you're not going to get fat overnight from going and having surgery, brother. Okay? In fact, it might actually be just the deload that you needed. I needed this. Yeah, good stuff, guys. 100% Shauno. Yeah. And you know what? When you have a break, like, you might just actually find that the injuries. I'll give you an example. I don't know if Benny Bell is watching this, but one of the things that Benny talked about is that he's just got back from his holiday to South America, and he was enjoying all the food and doing all the things, but when he got back, he was just like, oh, wow, I just can't wait to get back and have a fucking simple chicken salad. Like, that's what I'm craving. And that's what you want, because sometimes when you have these periods of where you loosen things up a little bit, it makes you realize, do you guys feel the same thing? It makes you realize how much you crave structure. It makes you realize how much you crave healthiness. There's a really interesting switch that I think people go through where, let me know if this is you. We've still got 17 people watching here. Let me know if this is you. You've gone from being rejecting health, saying it's hard, but then you've got a taste of it. And now when you have kind of takeaway or you have a bit blowout, you almost just like crave the structure and the consistency of what eating a certain way makes you feel like, what training a certain way makes you feel like. So I think one of the things that having a break does is it makes you crave what is good for you. It refreshes your commitment. It reminds you of the identity that you've created. It's a great thing. I watch my Netflix when I'm on my treadie. I can shut myself out, be productive at the same time. This is a really good comment. The way I tend to think of it is this, whether this is right or not, I don't know. The cardio advocates might not believe this, but this is the way I think of it. When you're doing resistance-based training, you want to become more focused. You don't want to be distracted. You want to become more focused. So for me, listening to podcasts as an example, which require me to think and absorb while I'm doing gym, is not a good idea. It's not a good idea because it draws my focus away from what I should be, the mind-muscle connection. But for me, cardio is the opposite. Cardio is very helpful in accelerating fat loss gains provisionally. And if you can jump on a treadmill and put Netflix on and just completely distract yourself, 30 minutes will pass and it's like, oh, wow. So that's the way I view it. Distract yourself when you're doing cardio because it makes the time pass quicker. Focus yourself when you're doing resistance training because you need the focus to get the mind-muscle connection, or you'll be just doing lifts that are not really, they're not really connected. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this has been helpful and beneficial. Share this episode if so. Chat soon.